Hey everyone, got a kind of a special video here today. Arthel and I were looking at Cartoon Brew, and we saw this video by Janet Chan, who quit Disney recently, and that just got a conversation kind of going at our studio. For those who don't know, I'm Henry Thurlow,
Arthur Isom.
and we both work in the Japanese anime industry. I worked in the New York animation industry for a few years before coming out here. Arthel has only professionally worked out here, but we've been out here for a while. Working in anime, and now we're running this studio, De Art Shtajio. So we do animation every single day, and obviously when we see news stories like this, we just kind of talk about it. And we thought this is kind of an interesting conversation, so maybe we'll just
It's popping up on our feeds and stuff. And
hit record and kind of let you guys see some of the things we were thinking. So Arthur, you want to kind of take it?
So like you said, we were looking through the Cartoon Brew thing popped up. These were some of the points. I think Janet Chen had 3 core points. How she broke down her video. The first one was the animation industry isn't what she thinks it is. The second one was it's not about your skill level, it's just who you know. And then her third reason was just she preferred to do her side hustle, which I actually thought that was kind of her main reason for doing the video or for quitting anyway, right? But
I think well, we'll get into it, but I think that's okay for some people. I think you got to find your own niche, and we'll go into that. But if that's her niche, then she should 100% do it.
Oh no, definitely, yeah. And then so let's just kind of, I thought it'd be best if we just kind of talked about each thing. There is another there is one more response that was also on Cartoon Brew, and this is actually just happened to be a coincidence, but he actually teaches at the school that I graduated from. So I graduated from Academy of Arts. So there's another response on Cartoon Brew by
his name was up right up there.
Yeah.
No, up at the top. Okay.
Yeah, I think Jean-Denis Haas or Jean-Denis Haas. I don't want to say his name incorrectly. I think that's his name though. And
if you go to Cartoon Brew, all the stuff that we're looking at and talking about is posted there. So actually, before even watching our video, it might be worthwhile to check that out if you want to understand entirely this little animation conversation we're about to have now.
Okay, and then he gives the opposite kind of point of view, right? And then I think I guess perhaps our point of views will be in the middle. Who knows?
Yeah, well, it's funny. Arthel and I don't actually agree on everything. Just our own perspectives, right? And I worked in the West a little bit, and also we're just different people, so we kind of go back and forth. So it'll be interesting to see, if we even disagree on some stuff here.
Okay, so we'll go to her first point. Her first core point, right, was the animation industry isn't what you think it is, and I think that's important because I guess everything. It's not that her points are invalid or valid or more valid than anyone, or that that Haas's points aren't either. Obviously, everyone. It always just depends on perspective and how you're coming into the industry.
Well, how is it different than how you expected?
Well, and so that's interesting because I felt that of course, I went to school at the Academy of Arts in America, and so I had this one kind of concept. But then the Japanese industry is totally different. So there was a lot that I didn't understand, right? Like that, So they both talk about like the 9 to 5 hours, where he says maybe 9 to 6, 9 to 7. Of course, the animation industry is totally different, but I think that we don't want to kind of compare the two industries. So I'll just say in general, I did understand that the industry was, that it was difficult and that it was hard, and that that you have to constantly develop your craft no matter how much like that. I felt I learned at school. I mean, at the academy our classes are 7 hours long, and we have like these crazy assignments that we have to do, and so I felt that the teachers really did.
That's super interesting. I'll let you finish your thought, because I do totally disagree.
And then my peers and things, I felt that we all kind of was that the art industry is not easy. I felt that we had that in our mindset, that it was okay, if we're not just drawing all day every day, doing this all day every day, that we're not going to succeed in the industry.
So I agree that obviously I didn't think it was going to be easy. No one thought it was going to be easy, and the few that did just failed immediately because nothing's easy, right? nothing's easy at all, period, full stop, right?
Yeah.
And so why would your industry be any different? For me, the one area that I will overwhelmingly actually agree with her on is probably this section, which is that in my experience, for especially the price you pay for schools, and not just the price, even if you got full scholarship, for the time that you put into schools, 2 or 4 years most likely, I think it's ridiculous the amount of not the lack of information that you get, at least in my experience. I think I had some great teachers and learned interesting stuff artistically, but in terms of learning what the industry was going to be afterwards, I knew essentially nothing. And when I left, it was like, oh, this is how you search for jobs. Oh, actually, this is what you need in your portfolio. Oh, actually, these are the softwares you need to know. Wouldn't those have been the things they should have prepared you for? Shouldn't they have been like, this is exactly the industry you're walking into. These are the pros and cons of the industry. You're going to hate this. Meetings are going to happen like this. You're going to have this lack of creative freedom, but this is... and I felt they just taught us how to make a cool short film, and then okay, off in the world you go, and didn't introduce us to the industry at all. And just to critique further, it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, and agree with her. You know, this is just a matter of opinion, but I mean, just as an artist, generally I tend to agree with the artists, right? Because I'm an artist, and so I understand their point of view. I mean, I agree with ridiculous executives and clients giving like critiques that you think will ruin the project, and you're just like, you know, man, I'm trying to make something good here, but then she mentioned in her video you can't have angry eyebrows or something. And then other times I've gotten critiques. I'll use some very old ones so it's not relevant and no current client can think of it, but it's like a very old one I got was just like the character's name was Chris or something like that, whatever it was, and they looked at the animation I made and they're like, I like it, it's good motion, it's doing what I asked you to do, but it's got to be more Chris. And I'm like, okay, well, explain that further. Just make it Chris. You got this. And I'm like, you know, that's ridiculous, right? So I understand, like, you know, and that's supposed to be my boss, right? And so now I have to take that comment and do something with it. And so I get it, you know, and that drives you completely crazy.
So that's interesting because so obviously we have 2 different positions, and so I guess so. Her first comment is weird because she was kind of commenting on the industry, but then it was like the school doesn't prepare you for this. So that would be more of a that's actually not Disney's fault, right? That's
no,
actually,
it's not. Absolutely not.
Or any of the companies you're into. That's actually the school's fault,
which
I think is a totally different video. It's like, well, how should schools prepare you? How should how should the art industry, or how should the education industry that's kind of putting people into commercial art field, which is obviously different than fine arts. You know, how should you be educated for fine art? How should you be educated for commercial art? But that's a whole nother topic, right? And maybe we'll do another video about it.
It's interesting though, because it's I mean, let's not go off on a tangent, but it is kind of mixed, because I think they need to make that distinction more clearer early on in people's careers, and then they can actually decide which path to take. And when you don't know early on, then this happens. And there's a weird mix.
And that obviously also depends on what school you go to, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Some schools have I felt our school was pretty clear. Commercial art. We had the commercial art department and the fine art department, and then within that was this. And I felt that the fine artists in our school were fine artists. Like, they knew that their work, they can draw whatever they want and be as free as they want and paint however they want and then put it on a gallery somewhere.
Interesting.
Commercial art is not that. Like, it is that by the very definition of what we're doing work for hire for people above us, you know, and then that they're gonna give to customers, which means that essentially we're not totally free with what we're doing, right? Now the higher your position is in your job, the more freedom you start to have, right? Like, once you've been working, you do understand the ins and outs of your industry and what your specific profession requires. Now you can get more freedom, and so which would then lead into this part about having having the executive tell you things about be more Chris or the eyebrows. I have a different opinion than Henry does. I feel that, like, even if the execs at Disney were like, okay, we can't draw angry eyebrows anymore, to me, I think, especially being a storyboard artist, and it's not to specifically pick on her or anything, because that's not the point. But I mean, your position as an artist especially a story artist or anything, is to then find creative ways to do what it is that the executive asked you, or that your showrunners or directors asked you to do. So drawing angry eyebrows isn't the only way to make people angry. Like, you can draw characters like stomping or jumping up and down or banging on things. So I feel that when someone, sure, most people, maybe perhaps people who are above you aren't the most eloquent people in the world, and then their only way of expressing something is like, be more crisp or do this. But as an artist, and if you are, like you said, the best of the best in the industry or something, your job is to then find the creative ways to solve that problem. And
this is where Arthel and I go back and forth and argue with each other. I'm okay with that, and I think that would be more valid if it was a rare thing. If it's like sometimes a ridiculous comment comes, but hey, you've prepared for this. You do this for a living. This is where you got to get serious and try to interpret that comment and somehow make something good with it, right? But if it's just morning till night, day after day, just being barraged by ridiculousness, like I'm not going to never take the artist side. Sometimes I'm going to be like, the people with clearly ridiculous ideas that cannot articulate things should maybe stop demanding so much ridiculous stuff of the artist.
Well, exactly. And like you said, because you're going to meet different types of people, right? So that not every director or not every showrunner or every exec is going to be the best of the best. Like, you're probably going to run into more people who aren't, right? Yeah. So that's that.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's keep moving.
Okay, and then there's the point of, like, she also said that I thought that while I was in the industry, I can get in the industry, work a year or two, and then, or maybe she didn't say a year or two, but like, and then become a showrunner or director right away.
Right, yeah.
I actually think that isn't the case anywhere. Like, so I mean, like, even if you worked at McDonald's or Starbucks, like, unless you've already had previous experience as a manager, like, you can't just walk into Starbucks one day and say, I want to be the manager of Starbucks.
So here's where I agree with how what she wants the reality to be. To be honest, I also am tormented by the fact that I am not yet a showrunner or have a movie or something like that, right? So I understand how she feels. Totally, right? Me too, right? I could have a great conversation with her, right? And we'd totally be agreeing from start to finish. However, the reality is, with the exception of a few special cases, and yes, you do read about these cases on the internet.
Whoa, there's always exceptions.
So-and-so is 23 years old and they have a show, and even I go, I'm 35, and I go, why not? I've been working for,
and I wish I didn't remember her name. She's like exec producer
13 years nonstop, and taking all these risks and move to the other side of the planet and learn a different language and work in a different industry and all of that work, and in Japanese animation industry, crazy 16-hour days and stuff like that. And yet here's this story of a 23-year-old with it. But that really is the crazy exception to the rule, right? And you're not guaranteed to be that super rare exception. I also want to direct and write and have massive control over stuff that I make, right? And in the entire 13, 14-ish year professional animation career that I have going on now, I have gotten 4 minutes of that, I think, essentially. We worked on the Sturgill Simpson Sound and Fury anthology for Netflix, and we each took over one of the segments, and that 4-minute segment I had pretty much full creative control over. In my entire career, that's the only 4 minutes I've ever had to do that. And every single other job for all of the rest of the years has been, great, Henry, we like how you handed it in, but change 5 things and then we'll really put it through, right? And I have to just keep changing stuff, and I don't get exactly what I want through. A couple times here and there I do. We worked on a One Piece episode recently, and the dragon I drew came back with no corrections. Awesome. So that's a win, right? Yeah. But the wins are very few and far between. Oh, wow, this character got 0 corrections on it. Oh, wow, this 4-minute thing I actually get to control. And even that took years and years and years. So, like, 4 years in, I don't have my own show yet. No, come on. You
Yeah,
weren't
and I
gonna
think-
have a show in 4
Yeah,
years.
and I think
That's
so. And the reason why we're talking about this in particular, like with our viewers, and I don't know who's going to watch it, but there are people there are art students out there right now who are in college or in high school and they're looking forward to working in our industry, and it really does just take time, right? Like something that your teachers are constantly impressing upon you is drawing your Shakespeare every day. Like there's reason for that, right? Like repetition is how you get better at things, and also life is that way. The more you keep doing something, the further you advance. And so I think that like right now we're at this point where everyone's attention span is shorter, and we all want things right away. It's like 30 seconds. I want my high kind of thing, But I think the best thing, there is nothing wrong with working 10 years or and actually loving your what it is that you do enough that you'll continue with it, and then the reward is putting in that hard work and then making progress and getting better, and then getting to be, now you're on top, like you get to run a show now. Oh, and then you work a little bit harder, you do more. Oh shoot, like now
it's been a super slow like level up for I think both of us, right? Like I worked at the very bottom in the New York freelance industry, and then I came to Japan and I had to rework my entire portfolio before getting into this industry at the very bottom, and then I worked for years as an in-between animator, completely unrespected, and then I worked for years as a key animator, often being uncredited because they're like, oh, you're so low on this.
And that's the thing, even now, so now we have our company, but obviously we're not Disney. Right?
We're not producing the feature film kind of
years,
things we want to make, right?
So
we're still in that process.
We're at the bottom again.
We're still we've moved up to the next step. Hey, let's make a studio, and then. And again, we're at the bottom. Now we can't do what we want. So, it sucks, and it makes, I get it. I get the frustration. I 100% get it, right? But I mean,
you just have to keep doing it. Right?
We'll never succeed if we don't keep going forward.
Exactly. And so then the next, I think that's a kind of good Kevin to her next core reason, which was, it's not your skill but who you know. Right, and so like as we're saying right now, like you have to kind of keep working. You can get things. Now that's interesting. It's not your skills, but who you know. It's not what you know, but who you know. Right? Is that what people say? Like a lot of. And I don't know how I feel about that. And I think Hassan said it the best, right? He was like, if you don't know anything, you're not creative, or you're not. There maybe your friend can give you a job or something like that, but you're only still going to get but so far. Like then you're going to run into a wall. Because that you
need to. That was one of the comments I had. Of course, you do need to be good. You can't just I don't think there's too many examples. There might be a few of shows that the art style is just scribbles and stuff, and then you can maybe make the argument, oh, look, they're not good at their craft. On the other hand, you could probably make the argument it's good to have a show or two out there that's a weird style like that. But my thought on it is, you got a network. And I hate that fact too, but you just have to. And I recognize that when I came to Japan, I had no connections in Japan. Zero. I had no one. I don't know anyone in the whole country, right? And yet I was like, well, before I crack into the anime industry, I'm going to need to know some people. So where are events where animators gather, where sketch classes where just like-minded artists are gathering and working on their craft, and then I might ask what they're working on and stuff like that. And so I had to find events like that. In fact, we met. We met via the Dr. Sketchy's Tokyo
art workshop.
I met a friend of yours who was there, and then we ended up meeting. So you see, that's networking. I had to network to know Arthel and to know all the people here. So that sucks, but you just have to do it. I mean, of course you have to network.
I'll it's interesting. Like, it's not what you know, it's who you know, kind of thing. That's been around for so long. I'm gonna add a new one. I think it's what you know that gets you to know who you need to know. Like, you need to the better you are, or as an artist, or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever your industry is, we're talking about art right now, but it's going to open the doors so that you can then have access to the people you need to know. And then, like, for example, Henry said he met a friend of mine at the art workshop who then introduced us. But if Henry wasn't an artist or animator, or
I wasn't trying to work on my portfolio.
Then there would have been no reason for my friend to introduce him to me, you know, or for us to even have a conversation that all that like 10 years ago, whatever that was, you know. It's like, so you have to kind of, what you know is really important, you know, and you should, so never kind of say, well, I don't need to be a good artist because I just need to get out there and meet people.
But she's actually saying the opposite. But I would argue, don't say what she's saying too, which is like, I'm amazing, but I just can't make connections, essentially.
And that was going to be the next point, because so in her videos she was saying that once you start working, then you know she couldn't sit at the table and things. And I thought that was interesting. So I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with levels.
Just to be clear, because I wanted to make a comment on that too. She went into
being alienated by her
peers, not enjoying the work environment. You know, she wanted to make friends with the people at the studio.
It felt like a mean girl high school environment.
So here's my thoughts, and then I'll see if it matches yours. You're not, you know, you get along with some people, you don't get along with other people. There's going to be work environments that you just don't get along with everyone. And it might not be your fault, it might be their fault, but you just don't, right? And then that's not a good work environment for you because, man, I'm not friends with anyone here and we don't seem to be vibing with each other very much, right? At another studio, big studio, small studio, whatever, all of a sudden, oh man, I happen to like everyone around me, right? Yeah, I mean, because I have experience in both. When I worked at Augenblick Studios, I loved everyone there. I worked at Augenblick Studios for a year for Supergel Season 1, and it was a great experience. Everyone was friends, right? It was amazing. And then at other freelance jobs that I had in New York, I would go to the place and be like, oh, hey, everyone. No one answers, and it's like, well, this really sucks, and I don't like this. You know what? I'm going to finish my freelance job, and then I'm never going to contact any of these people again because this environment isn't good. So it sucks when that's the case, but I mean, it seems to me from the video she only worked one place, right, for 4 years. Yeah, so you only gave even one place a chance, is my kind of opinion on that.
Seems like, yeah.
So maybe the place you were working just wasn't good for you, and that sucks. But you know, try somewhere else because sometimes you make friends, sometimes you don't. You're not guaranteed to get along with everyone everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like making friends. I mean, I'm actually I think I'm not so good. Like so, Henry's really good at networking. I'm not actually that good at it, but you know, I still have work, you know. So like, I actually don't really go out of my way to kind of talk to a lot of people. I should. I'm not saying that that's a good thing either, right? Like, you know, I wish I was better at getting to know people, but you know, it's both things take time, and both skills are required. Like so instead of saying, oh, they're not being my friend, what can you do to yourself to kind of be better at making friends, right? To get the people who aren't noticing you to notice you and to talk with you, because there is the opposite side. Like everything is always about perspective, right? So there's the opposite side of that too. Oh, I'm going to sit at that table over there where the directors are so that they can give me a job as a director. Like that's wrong too, right? Now it just means that you're just only trying to be their friend.
In fairness,
I'm not saying that's what she was saying.
In fairness, that's not what I interpreted. What she was saying is I understood it as she went to sit with the other animators, and then she didn't make friends with those animators. And again, that sucks. But to me, it's like, okay, well, there's some people out there you just don't make friends with, right?
But and that's interesting, because then what does that mean that she's not friends with? Like, obviously we don't know, right? She's not friends with everybody, or is it just there's specific amateurs she don't want to be friends with?
I mean, you even just said I'm good at networking. I mean, I guess when I meet people who I get along with, I go out of my way to try to stay in touch with them, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I get along with everyone. As I said, I've went to studios and I made no connections at that studio because I just didn't get along with everyone. You can't assume every room you walk into is going to be a great experience and everyone's going to get along with you. You're going to walk into lots of rooms in your life and leave with no new friends, right? Like that just happens.
And you know, and that's that. So I think just try to make as many friends as you can. Network is important. Hassan said, like, you know, going to conventions and things like that, like just to meet people who are in industry, because of course knowing people will still advance your career. Like that, it is important.
Yeah, so. you do have look. The reality is you do have to network, and if you're like, oh no, but I don't do that well. Yeah. Well, okay, deep breath, ready for it. you have to be good at
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
you have to practice that.
you're going to have to get good at something that you're not good at right now, but you have to.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Period,
So,
full stop.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. It is part of it. And then, but it doesn't trump your ability to draw. It doesn't trump skills or anything.
For sure.
If you go to a hall, everyone's great, like great artists there, and you can't draw, you won't be working in the industry. You know, I mean, maybe you could get in the mailroom at Disney or something. But who knows? And then, you know, and then of course our industry is the industry. Like she talked about meetings, like having meetings about meetings and things like that. I think that perhaps nobody likes meetings, or lots of, you know, I mean, it depends on what the meetings are like. And
look, honestly, I don't even think we need to comment on this, because and I hope it's coming across that I do agree with her on a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to being an artist, right? I think I see eye to eye on her.
You know,
but in terms of like work ethic and what is expected from the work, this is where I do just totally disagree, and it's like I almost have no comment. I mean, you have to do things you don't like all the time at work.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want
work
to do all my meetings either, but I just have to. And I have for many years, and I will for all the years to come.
Yeah.
That's just what you do in a work day.
I think that really is the work environment. So I think for all the artists who are out there who say, oh, I want to work for Disney, I want to work for Warner, or wherever you want to work. I want to work at ILM or something. Like, or Lucas, I think it's not ILM anymore. But like, depending on where you want to work, it is work, you know, and so that means you're going to go there, and it might not even be the production you want to work on. Oh man, why do I have to draw rabbits today? I have to animate rabbits. Yes, you have to animate rabbits because that is the project you're working on. Like the answer to that, the only answer will be, well, yeah, one, obviously if you're like this crazy skilled artist, you're on the top of your game, and then now you have your choice of productions to work on, that's different. But, you know, but you have to get to
the only way I could imagine even getting to that level of I get to pick everything I want to do is to be a major player in the industry, which means you probably did the unfun stuff for already many years to get there.
You would have already been in the industry for at least 20 years or something like that, and then now you can kind of have your choice, right? And even then, that's not even guaranteed. You know, it might take more than that, and which would then lead to her last, because the only other answer is actually what her third point was that she decided to focus on her side hustle. And so I kind of felt like, instead of the title of her YouTube video being like, I worked for Disney for years and this is why I quit, because it to me it felt like her focus had really just always been on her side hustle.
Yeah,
so
but to her credit, that's also side hustling. Like hustling, right? Like that's hustling. Hey everyone, I have something really important to say about.
Oh, you mean her video? Yeah.
So I give props to that, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is, because if you want to be an independent artist or something, then that really is for you, right? Because I think those kind of people will never be happy in a work environment, right? Like the entrepreneur mind type people or something. But then you can't blame your work environment on that. Like, that's not your boss's
I just
fault.
feel at the end of the day, like, if you want the total freedom, and I do, and again, like, I'm one of the people that actually probably has almost the exact same dream as her. You have to be realistic that, and it sucks, but it's only going to come here and there, and you have to work for a long, long time before then you see a little bit of freedom again, and then you work a whole lot longer, and then there's another project with some freedom, and then and you know, hopefully one day the goal is then you are in charge of the dream project, right? But I you know, not many people make it there. I know I haven't yet, but fingers crossed, and I keep going towards it.
Yeah, I think. Like the goal of, I think, artists, of course, probably the core of us is like freedom to create. Like we're creative, right, by nature, so we want to be able to create things. And then just depending on like how much of that creativity are we willing to sacrifice to still do what we love to do. And you know, so
I think you just have to be realistic. Like if you are working in the commercial industry, then that freedom, if it comes at all, is going to just be sporadic. It's not going to be like, wait a minute, I've been here 3-4 years, or even for that matter, I've been here 7 years. Why don't I have my own show already, right? It's like, it doesn't work that way.
And then even that takes, there's so much to just that, you know, which is more than the one position that you're doing. Like if you're an animator, or if you're a storyboard artist, or you're a background artist, and then you want your show now. But that means now you still have to kind of incorporate all the rest of the, you know, the skill sets that's required to then be able
Well,
to do that.
the ultimate irony is, you know, if you want anything other than a small indie production, you have to work with the corporate world a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, like, let's say Janet gets her indie series
I think
or
artwork. She makes T-shirts.
Well, okay, but let's say that gets super popular and some set of characters is established and becomes super famous, and she becomes really wealthy from it, and all the dreams come true, right? Then let's say she wants to make a cartoon with this. Well, unless it's going to be just a 5-minute YouTube thing, she's gonna have to go back to those studios and be like, okay, now let's work together to make a series with these, and then you're gonna be back in those meetings, right?
A whole bunch of investors.
And you're the investors.
How do you get productions? Just because I mean, unless you pay for it all by yourself, like getting a production on the line isn't just, hey, look, I have this great idea that's selling well over here, because it doesn't.
But
work
even
like
then,
that,
but that isn't that the ultimate irony though? Because let's say she can even fund a project entirely herself, finds a studio that needs the money, so it takes the project. Then she will be the exact thing that she's critiquing now, being the overlord, saying, "Artists, I don't care about your opinions. Here's what you're going to draw for my characters. You're not, you draw them the way that I design them."
And I don't want angry eyebrows on my character.
Or maybe she wants tons of angry eyebrows, but that artist, you know, I think this character shouldn't be so angry all the time. I don't care because the person funding it, is demanding something.
And that's the irony, and that's the reason why, you know, there's, you know, that's the cycle that we get into. But I will say, I guess we've been kind of ranting on here. So we'll say, you know, if your side hustle is your thing, or like, you know, that is what you want to do, there are so many avenues for that. It's not going to be easy, right? You're going to have all the issues, and like you said, like you know, you're going to run back into the same roadblocks. But there's Patreon, and there's all these, you know, what is it? I don't know, Gumroad or something like that, and a whole bunch of other blogs and things for people to share, and YouTube and things like that. The world is at your fingertips. So everyone, with that, I guess we're kind of end it.
Yep.
And you know, we say Shtajio daiji, like we always say.
Yeah, we have a vlog going on, and Shtajio daiji. And if you want to know what that means, go check out our first video, and we explain it. All right. That's our 2 cents. Peace. Bye, guys.